host Hannah, and welcome to Seoul Museum Tour. Today we're at the National Museum of Korea, a place where you can learn about Korean history and culture from the Paleolithic age through to the modern times. Let's see what kinds of exhibitions this museum has to offer. Let's go. So I'm now inside the National Museum of Korea, and there's a cool piece of trivia that I just learned. Did you know that this exact spot that I'm standing on right now is where the members of BTS stood during their shoot here at the museum? So if ever you visit, why don't you try standing just where they stood as well? But back to the exhibition. The one that we are about to see today is called The Story of History Through Hangeul. And I think our subscribers who are interested in Korean history, Korean language, and Hangeul will really enjoy this exhibition. So why don't we take a look at the exhibition and what it has to offer now. Let's go. 김진실 학예연구사님, 오늘 모셨고요. 오늘 전시 관람하기에 앞서서 소개 부탁드릴게요.
저희 전시는 574돌 한글날을 맞아서 이렇게 저희가 기획을 한 전시이고요. 한문으로 되거나 중세 한글로 된 그런 어려운 역사 자료들을 재미있게 풀이를 해서 친숙하게 다가갈 수 있도록 하는 것이 전시 기획의 의도입니다. 지금 전시되고 있는 유물들은 종이, 평면적인 유물들이 많아서 저희가 그 내용에서 재밌는 부분들을 뽑아내서 유튜브라든지 SNS라든지 카카오톡이라든지 이런 쪽으로 좀 빗대서 만들어 봤기 때문에 관람하시면서 그런 부분 좀 유심히 봐주시면 흥미로운 부분이 있을 것 같습니다.
This looks like the first part of the exhibition, and it's based on the story 흥부와 놀부. 놀부, taking all of his parents' wealth, was actually against the law. Actually, in the Joseon times, once your parents passed away, you would have to split the inheritance equally among the siblings. There is some record, apparently, that states that towards the end of the Joseon dynasty, the eldest son got a little more of the wealth from his parents because, as you know, in Korea, there's a thing called 제사, which is ancestral rights for family members that have passed. But in most cases, it was split evenly between siblings. Part 2, the Crown Prince Hadou. For those of you who've watched a lot of Korean dramas, Korean movies, you would probably have come across this name, 사도세자. He's one of the most tragic princes, I guess, in Joseon history. What it says here, it says King Yeongjo killed his son and bestowed the posthumous name Hadou on him. The name Hadou means dying young while repenting of wrongdoings from the past. You know, his father hadn't quite forgiven him for whatever he had done wrong. Continues saying King Jeongjo granted his father the new honorific name 장헌, meaning that Hadou had possessed the qualities required to become a benevolent king. Moreover, King Jeongjo tried to erase negative opinions of Hadou by leaving behind the previous epitaph tablet with the inscription written by King Yeongjo in the old tomb. This shows the very complicated relationship between 3 generations of men in the family. There's also an animation here to help you better understand the story. It's a continuation in a way because this section talks about King Jeongjo. King Jeongjo is known as being a king who was, very impartial. He's known for reforming Joseon society. There were a bunch of letters that were discovered, letters that King Jeongjo had sent to this person here, Shim Hwan-ji. The text, it says these letters were addressed to Shim Hwan-ji, a leader of the Pyeokpa, or the party of principle in one of the political factions, who was often in conflict with King Tongju. What they did here was modernize the story. Tongju sending cacao texts to 심원지. Tongju says, 우이정 자나? 안 자네? 이보게. So there's a whole cacao talk conversation going on back and forth between the king and one of his people. We're at the final section. This section explores the bestsellers and the bookstores of the Joseon dynasty. What I found really interesting was that in the late Joseon period, many people enjoyed reading novels. People enjoyed reading novels so much so that eventually book rental shops were established. People were just dying to get their copy of novels that were popular during the day. So you can see here that it's a novel written entirely in Hangeul. They've given stars to all of the books that were popular during the time. So 홍길동전 got 4 out of 5 stars. The book next door, 춘향전, got 5 stars. During our visit to the National Museum of Korea today, we were able to see an exhibit that showcases historical texts translated into modern Korean. And so we were able to see old letters transformed into posts on social media, making it easy for anyone, even someone without background knowledge, to gain some insight into what life was like during the Joseon era. Now, I want to say that what we saw today is just a sneak preview into the collection available to see at the National Museum of Korea. So hopefully, in the near future, you too can come visit this great museum and explore its collection. Well, I think that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining the Seoul Museum Tour, and I will see you next time. Bye!